In between conferences, AMEE is involved in many other activities, and one of the most recent initiatives has been called askAMEE. Claire MacRae, who is the Educational Officer in the AMEE headquarters in Dundee, is here to tell us a bit more about that. Claire, thanks for the opportunity to tell us more about what is askAMEE.
Thanks for the invitation, John. So I think askAMEE is really exciting. It's a new idea that we had that, you know, AMEE does a lot of work. We have our BME collaboration, which is really looking at best evidence. We do a lot of work to promote research. We have our conferences where people come and present their research in posters and short communications. But what about the people who don't come to the conference? All these clinicians out in their clinical practices, teaching medical students, how are they getting this research evidence and using it in their practice? And that's really the people that askAMEE was set up for. So if you don't have time to sit and read and synthesize a whole pile of education literature, but you still have questions about how to improve your teaching, where do you go? And askAMEE is intended to be that place.
Great. So this really brings us to the real sort of crunch as to what AMEE as an organisation is all about. We are the international organisation for medical education. But what our aim is, and you can discuss this in different ways and there are different interpretations of it, but in a nutshell, it is to help healthcare professionals teach, and it is to help students in whatever discipline to learn. And I think what you're saying then is this askAMEE initiative really is designed to help clinicians, healthcare professionals to carry out their teaching role.
Yes.
You mentioned BME, the Best Evidence Medical Education Initiative, which has been going for several years now. Just try and explain again, how is that different from this?
So as you mentioned, BME has been established for a long time, and what BME really does is to conduct systematic reviews. So they go out and they look at all the research evidence that's out there and collect it, evaluate it and synthesize it into a paper to say, well, here is what the research evidence says we should be doing in this particular area. So one that I read recently was about hand washing practices and how to teach students to wash their hands so that it stuck and they actually were likely to do it. So it takes one specific aspect of practice and looks at the evidence around that. But the problem is it's still quite a high level of report that's produced. Not every clinician will have time to read it. They certainly won't have time to read it in every subject. And most of them really just want to know the answer to fairly straightforward questions like, well, I've been asked to deliver a problem-based learning session. How many students should be in that session? They don't want to know everything about problem-based learning, but they want to know the answer to that one question now. And that's the kind of answer that askAMEE is intended to provide. So what askAMEE will do is to take the research evidence and look at it, and maybe BME is the top level of evidence, the best we've got. But for other areas where there is no evidence published, we'll kind of look down and we'll say, well, there's not enough to do a systematic review, but there's a big body of evidence, and we have plenty of experts who have read most of that evidence and can present it in a way that's accessible to the teacher.
Thank you, that's really helpful. So if I was, and I'm sure we've all been in this position before, we know or we have been expert clinicians or healthcare professionals in our own teaching environment, and we tend to think, well, I've been teaching for so many years, therefore I know everything about teaching. You know, what am I going to learn by this initiative? What's the purpose of this for me?
So I think that's a really good point. People do build up experience, they build up ways that work for them. But I think all of us could learn to do things more efficiently, so none of us are perfect. There are always tips and tricks that we can get from the experts. But I think more importantly, things are changing so rapidly now. There is huge bodies of evidence being published. There's technological advances that are just going really rapidly, and it's really easy to get left behind. And I think that's what we're hoping to do, is maybe provide a quick way to get a very rapid update in an area of interest to you.
So I think this is very exciting. AMEE is stepping into this sort of gap almost, this space where there's information which can be shared. All we have to do is to apply to you or to AMEE and find out how to find out what there is. How would I go about asking AMEE a question?
So at the moment, this is, as we said, a new development. So really it's just a pilot project at the moment. So we chose, I think, 14 or 15 topics that were, we were getting commonly asked questions about, and we selected some expert panel members who responded to 8 to 10 questions on that topic. So for example, in problem-based learning, somebody has read as much of the literature as they can access and answered 10 commonly asked questions. And we built a pilot website that answers the questions in these areas, and that's at www.askAMEE.org. So that's kind of sitting there as a resource to go and use. But because it's a pilot, at the moment it's not really heavily interactive, and it doesn't have a huge range of topics. And that's the next phase of the project, is to develop this wider set of questions that people out there are really asking. So things that people come to us and say, I want the answer to this question. And to do that in a way that meets their requirements. So it's accessible, it's fast, it's reliable. And so the next phase of this project, we're about to launch a beta testing, which really means that we're going to invite people to come, to sign up with us, to use the site for a period of a few weeks ideally, and give us their in-depth feedback on it.
So I guess the next, or one of the next stages for developing askAMEE will be to invite other experts in a particular topic to come forward and prepare the answers to commonly asked questions.
So I think that's certainly one thing we're looking at. Another thing that's been suggested, and we are still in the early stages of this project, is that maybe we should be looking towards a more collaborative, like wiki-style editing project. So as well as maybe an expert topic editor, anybody can contribute to answering these questions if they have some expertise, and then the topic editor really monitors what's been put in there and edits it up for public consumption.
So the site will become more interactive.
Yes,
in
I
that
think
way.
so.
I think you said that the site is still in a pilot stage and is being developed. In what technical means do I need to access it?
None at the moment. No special technology. You can access it from your mobile phone. You can access it from a regular computer, and you don't need passwords or anything. It's free to everybody. You don't need to be an AMEE member to access the site. So we would, if anybody's interested in this project, we'd really encourage them to go and have a look at the site, and if they'd like to sign up to become involved in developing it, they can email us just on our main AMEE address, amee@dundee.ac.uk.
Thanks, Claire. You told us a lot about it, and I think it's exciting, and I know this is one of AMEE's main initiatives which will be carried on throughout the next year before the beginning of the next conference. Is there anything else that you want to say, Claire, about askAMEE at the moment?
No, only that if anybody would like to know more, come by the AMEE stand and ask there. And thanks for the chance to talk about this.
Great. Thanks very much, Claire.